Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. $1,400 stimulus checks are closer to reality. How will you spend yours? Let's explore. You know, in this community, I think most of us are probably in agreement on how we're going to spend ours. And really, it's not really about spending the money. It's about converting it from one form of money to another, more stable form of money. And that's what this video is about. Because as the nation careens into a higher debt and deficit spending, well, it's times like these when we really need to be smart with the money that we get, especially in times like that. But, you know, it's not right for everybody to spend it on precious metals. But I do feel that for those who have the wherewithal or the means, it may not be a bad idea to just convert it, because that's really what it's about. When you hold precious metals, it acts as a savings vehicle, a way to preserve your wealth in the more stable and ultimate form of money, and that is silver and gold. What you see represented here is an example of about what you can get for that $1,400. 1,400 fiat designated notes that will be coming your way if you earn a certain amount or less. In fact, there was $600 sent before. I never got that money. And so I don't know if I'm going to get this or not, even though I'm fully eligible to receive the stimulus money. But, you know, it's government, you know. I know there were some who did not get the previous payments that were doled out, the $1,200 for the first round. And I was fortunate enough to get that, and I did spend that money on precious metals. But what about this? What about these metals that you see before you here? And what about them is not a luxury purpose and as a way, as a vehicle to provide an insurance policy against what we know is coming. In fact, this is going to lead us into a greater amount of debt. If you don't count this money, or if you do count this money, that means we're going to be $30 trillion in debt when it's all said and done. $30 trillion in debt. And it is just mesmerizing to think about that much that we have added to our national debt. And we can keep doing it as long as we can, and as long as there is faith in this debt instrument known as the dollar. And so this is why I believe it's probably incumbent upon us to be very careful. You know, if you are in dire straits, or if you are without a job, or you are, an income has been affected by the coronavirus, well, it may be to your benefit to take that money and put it towards paying down your debts or for necessities. Cash is the most liquid form of money out there today. No question about that. Much more liquid than this. However, I do believe that we're going to come into a time when the dollar's value is going to decrease much greater than it has in the past. Because we know by the very nature of what the dollar is, and by design from the Federal Reserve, there is a target inflation rate of about 2% in normal times. Now, they're basically saying 2.5%, but we know that's by some measures of the economy, by research done, the CPI, Consumer Price Index, in the 12 different Federal Reserve districts. And this is something that has been done for quite some time, but there are other measures of inflation as well. And we know that by other more extreme measures of inflation, that we're seeing the dollar lose much more value than just 2 or 2.5% each year. The dollar has been designed essentially to fail, or to fail at a greater pace. But its failure is something that is gradual, and over time, as long as people have faith in it and can continue to utilize it, well, it'll continue to be the world reserve currency as it is exchanged as a medium of exchange for about 60% of nations out there in one form or another. And so that means that it has some clout. The dollar's got some clout. But by design, each year it loses value. That's inflation. And as we recover from the coronavirus, we're going to start to see more economic activity, which means the flow of dollars through the economy is going to increase, and that leads to inflation. Now, it may not be hyperinflation. In fact, Jerome Powell even talked about this and expects a one-time deal in terms of inflation happening in the United States and dismisses hyperinflation. Hyperinflation will come at us quicker than you realize, and it will be before anybody can really do anything about it, number one. But by the time it's recognized, it's probably too late if you're holding too many dollars. Notice I say too many dollars because I believe it is incumbent upon us to have some of these dollars not only in the bank as a savings vehicle, but especially outside of the bank as a savings vehicle. In other words, in your domicile or stored offsite, just like you would for precious metals. It's good to have a store of cash on hand in case you need it, save for the worst to happen, like a bank holiday, or a forced bank holiday, or something to that extent. And so maybe the things to do with the stimulus money, there's three things to do with the stimulus money. And I think number one is to take care of the necessities. In other words, if you need the money for, bills, for things that are required in order for you to survive and to avoid getting into trouble with your debtors, with creditors and stuff out there, well, that should be the priority number one, the stimulus money. Number two is to take a portion of it or all of it or what have you, some percentage of that money outside of the banking system in your sock drawer, under your mattress, somewhere, well, or in a safe at home, somewhere safe outside of the banking institution. I think that might be a good way to be able to hedge yourself with the most liquid form of money out there, and that is this debt instrument here, cash, because you never know. So you take either all of it or a portion of it and put it towards currency, these notes, in the form of cash on hand. Now, the third thing to do is a portion thereof or all of it and put it towards precious metals, such as you see here. And that is something that a lot of us here in this community do. In fact, we put it all there. And but I think if you're going to do that, I think it's good to have some cash on hand just in case of emergencies, as well as having some of it in the bank. But if you can afford to do so, this is a way to protect, just to a screenshot per se, your wealth in terms of where it is, caught in time. You know, we know that, especially as of the recording of this video, gold and silver are down, and it's disheartening to some, but that is just for the spot price. That's essentially the paper price of gold and silver, but we know these metals are selling for a lot more on the secondary market. And some of that premium that is being paid, some of it is being recaptured at the point of sale, either from peer-to-peer or back to coin dealers or bullion dealers, either on the internet or at your local coin shops. Although some of that is diminishing, admittedly, at this point, as there has been sort of an ebb in this demand as of late. People aren't quite buying as much. Supplies are getting refilled at bullion dealers. And but nonetheless, it is one option that you can partake in to help protect yourself in this time. And so my advice is to do one of those three things. And I think that if you really take into account where we're going as a nation, it should be troubling. And this is basically $2 trillion right out of the starting gate here, and passed on a completely partisan level. In fact, one thing for sure, those of us who do have what's what we refer to here as the gig economy. Well, there's a tax hike in this measure that we'll be going through. So those of us who have secondary jobs like on YouTube, we're going to get a tax increase. Those who drive for Uber and the like and do little side hustles that fill out the 1099 form or the other taxable form for other income levels, well, you're going to be charged more in taxes. Sadly, that was pushed in at the late hour, and only about 9% of this is going to specifically for COVID-19 relief. The rest of it is pork barrel spending and other measures for social justice and the like. So this is what politicians do, and sadly, it's the politicians that have been elected that are doing this. And how are elections determined? Well, mostly by the people who vote for them. And but those of us who didn't vote for some of these politicians, well, we have to protect ourselves from what we know is eventually coming. And again, I don't want to come across as an alarmist, but $2 trillion more in debt that we're going. And they think that raising taxes as a Hail Mary to help pay for this, it's going to be a drop in the bucket. If that's a hyperbole at this point, because it's going to be a speck of a drop in the bucket to help pay down this massive deficit spending that Congress is doing and will be signed by the president momentarily. So it's, in my mind, to take advantage of that $1,400 as best I can to make it work for you the most. And that is, I have a feeling, is to find the best wealth preservation vehicle out there. And that vehicle, in my mind, is gold and silver. You'll notice I didn't say to take it into Robinhood, buy GME stock, or gamble it on Bitcoin or some other stock of the day of the trade. No, I think that'd be the worst thing you can do. No one knows what's going to happen in those asset classes. And there's been a lot of people bragging about the cryptocurrencies as of late. I'm very much risk averse, and I believe this is a time of preparation, as we don't know what's going to happen to speculative assets. We know what's going to happen with gold and silver. Yes, they will go up, they will go down, but it's only by a certain margin. They'll never go to zero, and their intrinsic value and the value on the street is much higher right now than the spot price, no matter which way you slice it. And it's been that way for well over a year since this crisis started with the pandemic, and it will continue to be in that realm. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And what do you think about these three options? Is there a fourth option for that stimulus money? I'd be very curious to see what you think. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, please share, hit that little notification bell while you're here and while you're at it, and comment. And after all of that rigmarole, you might as well jump.